My name's Deslie Matthews and I was born in Gunnedah, but my family originally are from Breeza. I'm a Gomeroi woman and I go back 5 generations to Breeza. I have been involved in Shenhua as an Aboriginal stakeholder. So as an Aboriginal person concerned about the cultural side of it, we've got problems. So we're looking for sites, our Aboriginal sites, and the people have only done a 0.5% walkover of the area. In the Hunter, I think it's 30% coverage is the required coverage, so they haven't even reached that. They haven't even reached 1%. And then yet the mine's still going ahead. As for the impacts to Breeza, is where I live now, we're really concerned about the dust, the noise, the water, particularly the water, with the agricultural side of it being on the black soil plains, which backs up into Shenhua, or Shenhua backs up into it. The impacts of that groundwater could be phenomenal. I don't think anybody really knows how much, but we rely on that underground water with our bores. And I guess it's just the drinking water as well with the dust. How are they going to mitigate that? And also we've only had, I think, 2 meetings with Shenhua, like the actual village of Breeza. The last one I'm sure was 2012 was the last time we spoke to anybody at Breeza. I just don't think that's adequate. Well, we've got major grinding grooves on Shenhua, which are quite unique in a sense that they're a lot of spearhead grinds, like grooves, so that just tells us that they were preparing for a war there, and it's very significant to the Aboriginal people. We tried to protect those grinding grooves. We went to the pack and we actually invited them to come out and have a look at the grinding grooves and listen to the Gomeroi people speaking about those grooves and what they meant to us, because Shenhua wants to move them. That's how they want to mitigate the grooves. They want to move them. They tell us that they're on a floating rock. But in our culture, that is a sacred site where they are. So if they move those grinding grooves out of situ, there's no more connection to that area with them. Like the sacred connection, the spiritual connection is gone. It's not what we do. We don't just pick something up, move it, and then later on bring it back. And they don't get that. They just don't get our culture at all. I think they're quite ignorant and disrespectful to the Aboriginal people, and they definitely don't consult enough with the Aboriginal people. I really don't think it's right that we've got 2 mines down near Breeza. One is Shenhua, which is only 3 kilometres out. The other one is BHP at Karuna, which is an underground mine. Now, just for the exploration licence, I believe that BHP offered the government $100 million just for an exploration licence. Shenhua offered the government just for an exploration licence $300 million. On approval of the mine, another $375 million for Shenhua, and on approval of BHP, another $300 million. When there's money being thrown at the government like that, it just makes you wonder, will they ever say no? How can so many people be wrong, and why isn't the government listening to the people who live in the area, who know what the impacts are going to do? I mean, we can't eat coal and we can't drink coal. So we've got the Liverpool Plains, the largest agricultural, land right there. And we rely heavily on that groundwater. The impacts, I don't think they've done enough study. It just makes me wonder how can so many people be wrong? The meaning of being a Gomeroi person and seeing not only what Shenhua is doing, but the other mines as well in the area is our culture's just being destroyed. Nothing's worth saving to the mines. We've lost burial sites, we've lost grinding grooves, we've lost women's sites, men's sites. I mean, the burial sites have taken so much toll on the Aboriginal people, the elders. It's affected their health and well-being because their culture it's spiritual, it's in here, their connection to country, it's who we are, it's our identity, and they're taking all that away. And they're, without a blink of an eye, and it's also the fact that it's a foreign-owned company that's coming in, buying up our land, and then not even respecting the Aboriginal people by consulting properly with them. I mean, we've told them what sites are, and they've gone and got white people, I don't like to say that word, but they've gotten other people in who are archaeologists to override the actual Aboriginal people's decisions on what those sites are. And that's not right. It is up to the Aboriginal people to determine what is and what isn't their culture. It's really sad. And we have had so much sorry business in the last 2 years. We have lost young and old people in our community. I've lost 2 uncles that have been fighting to have access to sites at Whitehaven, and during that time, it's taken us 18 months just to get out on site, to do ceremony, to put our ancestors to rest for the destruction of their sites. And we had to actually go through an anti-discrimination conciliation meeting to get that access. These are Aboriginal people, their rights to go out on country, to do ceremony, that is their culture. And we have foreign-owned mines telling us that we can't even have access onto our own country. It's not even a fully operational mine. Some of the elders, and they are 65 plus, couldn't even, they were so emotionally affected by it that they couldn't even come to the next ceremony the next day. And it meant so much to them to get out there. But the emotion of it was just too much for some of them. And it's just so sad to see your own people go through something that is their right. They shouldn't have to be fighting to protect their culture. In the Hunter Valley, 98% of Aboriginal sites has been destroyed through mining, and I've been told that you've got a dinner plate and a 50-cent piece. The 50-cent piece is the Hunter Valley Basin, and the dinner plate is going to be the Gomeroi Basin. Government process doesn't help the Aboriginal people. We've got legislation that is in place to protect Aboriginal culture, yet that's failing. The system's failing us. The Gomeroi traditional custodians have been fighting to have access to our sites at Whitehaven, and also arguing that there was 52 breaches in the management plan. We wrote letter after letter after letter to the government and no response, no help. So as I said, the system's failing us. The protection of our culture, the acts are there, but when you try to access them, you know, something stops it. That's right. And you know, they talk about closing the gap with Indigenous people. Well, I think if they want to close the gap on health, the first thing that they should be looking at is giving back the Aboriginal people their right to their culture and having respect for that, because that is what makes us who we are. That's who we are. So every time they destroy a site, they're taking away a little bit of our identity. And it's gone, and we can't show our grandchildren or the future generations. We don't have history books, we don't have things written down. We have knowledge passed down, and we have evidence of our people through our sites. And there's lots and lots of different sites. You know, there's camping grounds, there's women's areas, there's burial sites, there's bora grounds, there's ceremonial sites, the grinding grooves. And yet I haven't seen anything that is important enough to save. As an Aboriginal person, it's just so hard to see. As I said, foreign-owned mines coming in, and with Shenhua, how would they like that if we went up there and said, we're going to impact the Great Wall of China. We're just going to take a little bit out of here and a little bit out of there, and we're going to take it away, but we'll put it back in 30 years, it's okay. Do you think that would be acceptable? No way. So why is it acceptable here? Why aren't the Aboriginal people, who are the longest living continual people still living, why aren't they taken seriously? They have so much knowledge which could help our planet be a better planet. I mean, you know, they've got knowledge, they've got a connection to the land. The land is our mother. So it's our responsibility to protect her. But, I mean, it's not just our responsibility, it's everybody who is living on this planet. It's everybody's responsibility to look after this land. I mean, the mines might generate millions of dollars, but what good is that money if we don't have a planet? And what good is it? What can you do with money if you haven't got a planet? They're not even thinking of their own future generations.
And what's the projected lifespan of this mine?
30 years, but they all get expansions, you know? So they say, oh, the life of the mine's going to be 30 years, and then 20 or 10 or 15 years into it, oh, we're going to have an expansion, so, you know, they need more coal. Oh, that's our food bowl, isn't it? And that's what they're destroying. I don't think they realise how big the impacts are really going to be, how devastating. If something goes wrong with that water system due to the impacts of the mine, it could be disastrous, not just for us here in the Liverpool Plains, but for people up further in the Darling Downs. It's going to affect people not just here. The water system doesn't just stop here. This is your food, this is your future, this is everybody's future. This is everybody's responsibility to look after country. not just the Gomeroi people. We have a connection to land through our culture, but the planet is where everybody lives. Everybody needs to take responsibility for country. This is the wrong mine in the wrong place.